Welcome to YorkZuki.com Insight. Today I wanted to dispel some funding myths. Almost every innovator, startup, entrepreneur is probably looking for funding. And I have, over years, invested quite a lot of money in a number of businesses and startups, including, of course, my own. I also chair a couple of government funds where we invest in startups. So I've been around the block and I've seen a lot of the expectations and hopes and misconceptions, if you will, that people have around funding. So let me dispel the 4 myths around funding. 1, funding will not make you rich. Your problems will not go away if you find an investor. In fact, investors don't like to pay for high salaries. So don't expect that suddenly your bills are covered, you'll have a comfortable life, you can finally afford the car, the house, and so forth. Funding will not make you rich. Funding will give you the cash flow, the money, in order to achieve certain growth targets. But remember that it's not for personal use. 2, money will not solve your challenges. You know, if I had a bit of money, I could hire a fantastic salespeople, all my troubles will go away. But the reality is the best salesperson will not perform the way you thought they will. The software that you thought would solve all your problems will be requiring much more work than you originally thought. Funding means you have access to more resources, but don't forget that you'll still be in a constrained environment. No investor gives you unlimited resources. They'll give you probably less than you actually need. So you have to do more with less. But that's not all bad news. Some of the best innovations come out of resource-constrained environment. When you don't have all the money you want, if you can't hire a sales force to cover the whole world, you start thinking different. You start thinking out of the box. There are many phenomenal success stories built out of situations when there wasn't as much funding as there was hoped. Number 3. Funding will certainly allow you to get more resources. But remember this, those who fund you, the investors, also have very high expectations. You'll be under enormous additional pressure to start making a return on that investment. So now you can breathe a little bit easier because the rent is paid and the computers are bought and the trucks are invested in and the software is up and running. Now you have investors breathing down your neck. They're going to say, it's all very well, now you spent all that money, show us how you're making money. Show us the profits, show us the revenue, the turnover. So don't think that just because you have more resources, life will be easier. You'll have a lot more pressure, and I guarantee you, those quarterly calls with your shareholders are not going to be pleasant. They'll accept setbacks and excuses once, maybe twice. The third time, you're going to have your shareholding diluted or you'll be kicked out of the company. Number 4, and perhaps this is the most important part. Don't forget that there's a high price to pay for funding. When you get funded, you're effectively ending up in a golden cage. You effectively are going to now be locked into agreements, into return of investment, in reporting. You're going to curtail your freedom quite substantially, which means you can't suddenly do everything you wanted to do. You can't one day do this and the next day shoot in that direction because the investors funded you on the back of an investment proposal, which states, this is my target, this is what I'm going to achieve, this is how I'm going to spend the money. You have a little bit of margin to deviate, but it still has to stick to the plan. If you want to change substantially, you have to go back to your investors and ask them for permission. Otherwise, they can hold you accountable. So I hope that helped a little bit. You will need funding for sure one day to grow. But my advice to you is keep it there, push it down the line for as long as possible. Try as much as possible to get traction for your business, for your service and product. Try to get clients and prospect. Build as much up by utilizing revenue from sales rather than investment revenue. Because as you grow the sales, you have other options that start opening up, like financing, invoice factoring, and so forth. So I hope that helped. Happy entrepreneuring.